This is a video about not a gaming computer. There's tons of videos online about gaming computers, and so I didn't want to go down that route. So what I've done is not a gaming computer. So there's lots of people who want to buy a computer that's not for gaming or for media, surfing the net, doing your shopping online and other things like that, you know. So what I'm doing is kind of like these networking infrastructure for home users that are making pretty much sense. So what I've done is I've gone onto a website. Well, I actually literally just searched up some hardware. It came up with a website, and it was so easy to pull everything across just to give you a demonstration, and the prices are all there as well as their codes. Anyway, it's a company called CCL. So right, here's the intro page, and as you can see, what I'm trying to do is get you to click on there because I want you to go, well, you've got these Ryzen 3, Ryzen 5 and the Athlon processor. Now all of these have onboard graphics, so they're suitable for light gaming, but obviously this is not gaming. This is just a normal day-to-day use computer that you can do some light gaming on it if you really want to. You can produce 4K video, watch it, stream it, media servers and that kind of thing, and you can watch your YouTube, plug it into your TV or have it anywhere else. So this is just literally a basic, well, not basic computer, but literally a functional computer. It's not one of the professional level computers which I'd say would be for like video editing or your gaming or renderings and graphic designs and photoshopping and that kind of thing. So this is really down to this. So what I've done is I've picked up, and I'm not going to give prices to give a budget, but what I've done is this is the first slide, and there's one at the end because I change over with options as well. Now what I might think is a good computer might differ for you, so what I've done is I've given you all options. So this is what I would spec out. Either one of these all have graphics on them, and that's why they have a G on the end, and you'll be able to obviously see this next to me as I'm doing this video. So next is the RAM. Now these are 1 8GB sticks. You can do this, but I would recommend buying 2 of these. In the next slide, what we have is the Hyper Fury. So these are 2x8, giving you 16 gigs. Now the reason why you would go from 1 to 2 RAM sticks is because the AMD processors are dual channel, so you have 1 RAM stick for each channel, and that's specifically why. Now these are 266 speed, 3000 and 2400, so it just gives you that kind of idea on what you could use. All of these, any of these would work with any of the processors, not really a problem, although technically you do want to go up to the 3200s, which you'll see now on the screen. So the 3200 memory, here you go, you've got ADATA, who make really good products by the way, HyperX and Kingston and Corsairs. So 70, 70 and 70 again. So that's really roughly what you're going to pay. So it's about just under £10 more than the previous selection. So when you go into building a normal system, your hard drive that you keep everything on is kind of like your operating system and your cache and everything else like that. So this kind of makes your system rather snappy and your load times rather quicker. So what you want to do is you want to ideally turn your computer on and it to be up, running and ready for you in less than 16 seconds. 16 seconds is probably a good benchmark. It's one that I've always used for computers, that you can sit down, wait 16 seconds, which means adjust your chair, get ready and move everything around, and then you're good to go. So but you don't need to do that. You can actually go down the route of a M.2 drive. Now these are 500 gigs or thereabouts, and as you can see they're £56, 58 and 65. And here we have, that was low speed, so your write speeds, if you look quite closely at them, you'll see they're about 500-600 megabytes per second. That's relatively slow compared to what you can get. So what I've done is if we go from £30 for your SSD to £60 for slow M.2 drives, and then obviously 60, and then we go up £10 more, and we can get high speed, which is you know, 2 to 3 times faster than your SATA SSD drive, which plugs into your SATA connection. So that's the difference between them. So if you literally pause, go back or whatever, you'll see that, you know, I've gone in for like 20-30 pounds ish and around about that mark, which gives you your different specs on there. Now for a little bit more, there was other ones there as well, you know, so it is really down to what your budget is as to what you can do. So I've gone into hard drives now, and this is where you'd kind of like bulk all your storage, where you dump everything down. So you'd have your pictures and everything else put onto these rather than actually on your C main drive. You don't really need to have them on there on your C drive, so you can just literally remap your drives and have everything on there, or you can do it that way and then just literally every now and again just put it off and have, you know, your little folders in your secondary storage drive saying what they are. Now these SATA drives will run and these are all 7,200 RPM. Just make sure you don't try and get a 5400 because it does slow down the system even more. Although you are using one of these, you'll probably end up with roughly about 100 and 120 megabytes per second. So if you've got photographs, even HD photographs and whatnot, from your camera, they're about 4 or 5 megs, 6 megs, maybe 8 megs if you're using pro cameras. So this is going to be a perfectly fine drive just for doing photos. If you're doing videos, obviously that's 12 megabytes per second to transfer that over, so you're not really going to have any issues there that are going to be noticeable unless you're using rather big files. So you will notice it once you go up to big file sizes. Over 100 meg will obviously lead into multiple seconds for loading time. So obviously what I've done then is I've gone up to 2 terabytes. So as you can see, they're 2 terabyte drives. They're £100 for the Hitachi or HGST drive, as they call themselves. Then you've got your Seagates, and you know, you're looking at about £100. These are also 7,200 RPMs. Now these are 7s, 5s and everything else, but you can see there you've got a price between £40 and £60. Previously we had between £100 and £120, and prior to that £30, £34, you know. So obviously I've catered there for everybody in the budget range. And now we go on to motherboards. Now I've picked AMD as the processor because they use AM4. It's a single socket where the processor fits onto the motherboard, and it's the same across all of their lineup of processors. So for most of you this won't make any difference at all, but I can literally get a Ryzen 9 processor and put it into this motherboard and it will theoretically work with a BIOS update. So I've gone in for these. These are ASRock. It's a 350 motherboard. Sorry, I even put the wrong ones up previously. But we have a MSI. This is the motherboard I've got here. This is the Micro ATX. Yeah, Micro ATX is £54, and it's about £70-80 for the full ATX size. Although I've gone down the route of MATX cases. Now this is pretty much simple and straightforward. This has an M2 dot. So this gives you your M2 dots, and you can literally put it up, and that's a 320 as well. So you've got a 320, a 350 and a 450. If I was going to go for one of these, it would be this one, because I know I have already. So once you've done that, then we need to get a power supply. Now there is quite a lot of myths about power supplies going back years. From about 2006, prior to that day, you know, you were getting a 200 watt power supply. Then the video cards came out, and dual video cards, and the power supply for video cards is quite a drawback. It's the current that goes through them. So everyone went kind of crazy, and everyone was buying 1,000, 1,200 watt and more power supply unit to run those systems and those cards. Now you don't actually need to do that. The AMD processor is about 35 watts, so as you can imagine, having a 500 watt, this is a Be Quiet one there, a Corsair VS and an EVGA. Now these are all 450s, 500s and stuff like that, so you're not going to get any issues there with your power supply. So these are pretty decent power supplies. This one's an ultra short at 12.5, so these are quite good for micro ATX builds. I have Corsair ones. I've not used Be Quiet, but they have got a good review. And EVGA really do come in with this kind of like really weird, are they any good or not, in my view. But you know, they're used in systems as a quality power supply. So any of those power supplies for £40-ish or £41. Actually they just vary in the £41 range, don't they really? So yes, so that's your power supply unit. Now case wise, cases are really in my view important. The quality of the steel and the thickness of it and the general look of it. I mean, if you look at this top case, it's a aero-cool gaming case, and it's got the hard drive base that you'll need, and it even has a optical drive at the top. Now modern computers don't use optical drives, they all use USB, so you know, it's up to you really whether you want to go down the route of having a optical drive fitted or not. That's specifically just your own personal view. So these are like 20, 30 or 40 pounds. So as you can see, we've gone in here with kind of like the expectations of, okay, let's look at sort of like cheap but not really cheap. I mean, you can buy a case for £20, but they're literally, you can knock them and they'll dent and all sorts of fun and rubbish things. So I've given you the Corsair Coolmaster Q300L, and that's £40. That is, in my view, quite a nice looking case. It has a glass side, the buttons are on the side of it, and it has quite the odd oh no, this one's not the odd setup. So the power supply fits in at the bottom at the back, and you know, everything fits in there. It's a mini tower case. These are all mini towers. And let's go on to the normal sized ones. So as you can see, we have kind of like the plain Game Max Ghost. It's a cheap case, it's a plain case as well, because you know, look at the second one, you get this kind of, you know, cyborg type flipping, you know, structure, which won't appeal to everybody. Now none of these have external 5.5-inch bays, as you'll probably notice, and we get the Q500L. Now if you look closely at the picture of the Q500L, you'll notice at the back of it, it doesn't have a PSU fitting. The PSU actually fits at the front of the case at the bottom. So I'm just making you aware of that difference. So as you can see, you've got a decent case. It's £10 more. It is a slightly bigger case, but you know, these are all the options there at low cost. So you're looking between £41 and £53 for that. Oh, I've got power supplies again, or did I just hit the wrong button? So yeah, literally the only options that you do have is obviously is considering of what you're going to be doing. Now if you're plugging into a TV or whatnot, there are usually HDMI ports on the back, as well as DVI and VGA usually, or mini USB display ports and that kind of thing. So when you're speccing out your computer, if you're going to be doing, if you know that, you know, you just want a normal computer, but you may want gaming and a 4K resolution. Now there wasn't really clear information about the resolution available from the onboard graphics. Now this really does get on my nerves because AMD, their technical specification are not on their website, which makes it a bit of a problem when you need to know certain things. So what I've done is, this was the lowest price. It's HD, that's 4K ready as well. So if you need to put a graphics card in, this will be an ideal solution for you. It literally has 2 gigs of RAM, so it will make your graphics performance roughly about the same. It's not going to really give you massive amounts, and I can't I'm not going to say yes, definitely get a graphics card, simply because there was no specification details on playing 4K. I know that it does 2K, but there was no spec, so literally I've just put this on there. It's a £78 graphics card. You know, it is what it is. It's not particularly rubbish. It's, you know, but it's not a gaming graphics card. Okay, so if you've gone through the route of buying a AMD processor, you can obviously upgrade your processors. Now, if you're using onboard graphics or not onboard graphics, it really doesn't make much difference. But the G behind the processor numbers, so on the top there you have the 3200G, that's a £70, £80 and £90. So yeah, £70, £80, £80 to £90 on a processor, you know, of what we're getting now, or, you know, in comparison to what older tech is pretty good. So you've got 4 cores, 4 threads on the two. On the bottom one there, the Ryzen 5 1600, does not have graphics on there, but it has 6 cores and 12 threads. Now this will be like if you're going to be doing, probably working at home, and you're doing, you know, quite arduous tasks, multitasking or whatever, then this will be the processor I would probably end up going towards. Or if you want a gaming system, the CPU there does not have a graphics card on it, so you might want to upgrade and change that. So that's really the end of it. There's some prices. The company I've CLL, all the codes and everything are on there, so you can see the prices and you'll get your totals out of it. So what I'm going to do is just flash up on screen a total from all of that, that I would pick if I was building a computer system from the hardware, and that should give you a price. But obviously this is kind of like, you know, a budget, not gaming system, and obviously there is the alternative there for the graphics card. Although technically, don't forget, you can buy a used graphics card, processes that you can use to utilize external hardware or services available, software services, like the NVIDIA Game Shield Stream, which uses high-end graphics and data throughput and streams everything, so you don't have to have the very expensive hardware running on your own computer system. Videos have been done about this, and it is actually quite a good idea. You can play your top-end graphics cards, top-end games, AAA titles, without having to have the top-end AAA hardware. I hope this has helped. If you like it, click like. If not, or you need any comments and questions, do put them in the box below. If you didn't like it, just click that you didn't like it, and it would be helpful if you said why you didn't like it. Thank you very much, and subscribe, and thank you for watching.